Jake Morrison stepped off the transport ship and looked up at the biggest building he had ever seen. The Galactic Academy of Sciences stretched into the purple sky of Xerion Prime like a mountain made of glass and metal. Thousands of windows caught the light from 3 different suns, making the whole structure shine like a giant crystal. He pulled his old backpack higher on his shoulders and walked toward the main entrance. The bag contained everything he owned. Some clothes, a few books from Earth, and a small box of protein bars his grandmother Betty had made for him before he left home. She had packed them carefully in wax paper, telling him they would keep him strong during his journey to the stars. Jake was nervous. He was only 18 years old and had never been away from Earth before. Now he was standing on a planet 200 light-years from home, about to attend the most famous school in the galaxy. Only 3 humans had ever been accepted to the academy. Jake was the 4th. The entrance hall was full of students from different worlds. Jake saw tall, thin beings with blue skin talking in musical voices, creatures that looked like walking. Crystals moved past him, their bodies making soft chiming sounds with each step. A group of students covered in thick fur were laughing at something, their voices deep and rumbling. Jake felt very small and very human. "You must be the new Earth student," said a voice behind him. Jake turned around and saw a creature that looked like it was made of living rock. It had 6 arms and eyes that glowed with soft golden light. "I am Veltor from the Andromedan Collective. I am assigned to be your dormitory companion." "Nice to meet you," Jake said, trying not to stare. "I'm Jake Morrison." "Jake Morrison," Veltor repeated, practicing the human sounds. "Come, I will show you to our living space." They walked through long hallways filled with more alien students than Jake could count. Some floated in the air instead of walking. Others moved on many legs or slithered along the smooth floors. Jake realized he was probably the strangest looking, being here to most of them. Their room was on the 15th floor of the student housing tower. It was bigger than Jake's bedroom back on Earth, with 2 sleeping areas and a small kitchen space. One sleeping area had a bed designed for humans. The other had what looked like a pile of smooth rocks where Veltor would rest. "The Academy provides all nutrition through the food replication systems," Veltor explained, pointing to a silver machine built into the wall. "You simply request what your species requires and the machine creates it." Jake nodded and unpacked his few belongings. He put his grandmother's protein bars in the small storage unit next to his bed. That evening, Jake tried the food replicator for dinner. He asked for a hamburger and fries, something simple from Earth. The machine hummed and produced what looked like the right food, but when Jake tasted it, something was wrong. The burger was flavorless, like eating cardboard. The fries were soft and had no taste at all. "Is the food always like this?" Jake asked Veltor, who was consuming some kind of glowing liquid from the same machine. "The replicators have been producing inferior nutrition for several months," Veltor admitted. "The academy administrators claim there are no problems, but many students feel weak and tired. My own energy levels have decreased by 30%. Jake pushed the fake hamburger away and opened his storage unit. He pulled out one of his grandmother's protein bars and took a bite. The familiar taste of honey, nuts, and something he couldn't quite identify filled his mouth. It was real food, made with real ingredients. "What is that?" Veltor asked, his golden eyes focusing on the brown bar in Jake's hand. "It's a protein bar. My grandmother made it." Jake broke off a piece and offered it to his roommate. "Want to try some?" Veltor took the piece carefully with one of his stone fingers and examined it. "It appears to be composed of organic materials in their natural state." "Yeah, it's got nuts and honey and some other stuff. My grandma grows crickets in her backyard and grinds them up for protein. She also uses dandelion leaves from her garden." Veltor's eyes grew brighter. "Crickets are earth insects, correct? And dandelions are plants considered undesirable by your species?" "That's right. Most people think dandelions are weeds, but they're actually really good for you. And crickets have more protein than beef." Veltor placed the piece of protein bar in what Jake assumed was his mouth, though it was hard to tell exactly where that was on his rocky face. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Veltor's entire body began to glow with a soft golden light. "This is remarkable," Veltor said, his voice full of wonder. I can feel energy flowing through my mineral matrix in ways I have not experienced in months. The biological compounds are being absorbed directly into my system. Jake smiled. My grandma always said real food gives you real energy. Your grandmother is a wise being, Veltor said. This simple organic mixture has provided me with more usable nutrition than the replicators have given me in weeks. Jake looked at the box of remaining protein bars, and then at his roommate, who was still glowing with renewed energy. Maybe his grandmother's simple recipes could help other students too. Maybe being human at an alien academy wouldn't be so bad after all. Outside their window, the 3 suns of Xerion Prime set in different colors, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Jake ate another protein bar and felt ready for whatever tomorrow would bring. Word about Jake's protein bars spread faster than he expected. The next morning, 3 students knocked on his door before breakfast. They had heard from Veltor about the amazing food that gave real energy. The first visitor was Krektos, an Eiter, insect-like being from the Rigel system. His body was covered in smooth green armor, and his large compound eyes reflected light like mirrors. The second was Namale, who came from the water moons of Saturn. She moved on 6 tentacles and breathed through gills on the sides of her neck. The third was a tall, thin creature named Zixara, whose skin changed colors as he spoke. Please, Krektos said in his clicking voice. Veltor told us about your organic fuel source. My energy systems have been failing for weeks. The replicator. Food provides no real nutrition. Jake looked at his remaining protein bars. He only had 12 left and he had planned to make them last for months, but seeing the tired faces of these alien students, he couldn't say no. Okay, Jake said, but I can't give you all of them. Let me share 1 bar among the 4 of you. He broke 1 protein bar into 4 pieces. Each student took a piece and ate it carefully. Within minutes, all of them began to show signs of increased energy. Krektos's armor plates brightened to a healthier green color. Namale's tentacles moved with more strength. Zixara's skin shifted to bright, happy colors. This is incredible, Namale said, her voice bubbly with excitement. I haven't felt this good in months. What did you call this food? Protein bars, Jake said. My grandmother makes them from crickets, nuts, honey, and dandelion leaves. Crickets? Krektos perked up with interest. Those are small earth insects, yes? We have similar creatures on my homeworld, but we never thought to eat them. Jake spent the rest of the morning explaining how his grandmother harvested ingredients from her backyard. The alien students were fascinated by the idea of making food from things that grew naturally instead of using machines. By afternoon, Jake had a problem. More students kept coming to his room asking for the magical earth food. He had given away 8 of his protein bars and was running out fast. That's when he met Lisa Park. Lisa was another human student, but she had grown up on the Luna colonies near Earth's moon. She was 2 years older than Jake and had been at the academy for 6 months. She knocked on Jake's door just as he was turning away another group of hungry students. I heard there's a human here who's been feeding half the school, Lisa said, with a grin. I'm Lisa Park. I think we need to talk. Jake invited her in and they sat on his bed while Veltor listened from his rock pile. Lisa was smart and practical. She had been studying the local plants on Xerion Prime for a research project and knew which ones were safe to eat. Look, Lisa said, you can't keep giving away your grandmother's food to every student who asks, but I think we can make more using local ingredients. More protein bars? Better than that. I found at least 6 plants on this planet that are highly nutritious, but the aliens here think they're weeds. There's also a type of beetle that lives in the academy gardens. They're full of protein and reproduce really fast. Jake was interested. You think we can make food that works as well as my grandmother's bars? I think we can make food that works even better. We just need to experiment a little. That evening, Jake and Lisa snuck out to the academy gardens. The grounds were huge, with plants from hundreds of different worlds growing in carefully controlled sections. Lisa led him to an area where local Xerion Prime plants grew wild between the organized garden beds. See these purple leaves? Lisa pointed to plants that looked like lettuce but with darker colors. They have twice the vitamins of anything Earth grows, and these seeds here are basically natural energy capsules. They also found the beetles, Lisa had mentioned. They were about the size of Earth crickets but had bright blue shells. Jake was nervous about eating alien bugs, but Lisa assured him they were safe. She had been studying them for weeks. Back in Jake's room, they ground up the beetle shells, mixed them with the purple leaves and seeds, and added some sweet sap Lisa had collected from a local tree. The result looked different from Jake's original, protein bars. But when Veltor tried it, his golden glow became even brighter than before. "This mixture is superior to your Earth bars," Veltor announced. "My energy levels are now at 110% of normal capacity." Within 3 days, Jake and Lisa had a production system going. They would gather ingredients every evening and make new bars every night. Lisa was good at organizing, and Jake was good at the actual food preparation. They started with just enough bars for their friends, but word kept spreading. Students began offering them valuable items in trade for the bars. Krektos gave them a small device that could identify which local plants were safe to eat. Namale brought them rare minerals from her homeworld that could be ground up and added to the bars for extra nutrition. Zixara used his color-changing abilities to keep watch while they gathered ingredients. The trade network grew quickly. Students would leave requests outside Jake's door along with payment in the form of rare books, useful tools, or credits from their homeworlds. Jake and Lisa found themselves running an underground food business without meaning to. The problem was that Academy security was starting to notice. Dr. Zenth-Ka, a reptilian professor with sharp yellow eyes, had been watching the improved performance of certain students in her classes. Captain Raxvor, the head of Academy security, had received reports of unauthorized food distribution. "We need to be more careful," Lisa warned Jake one evening as they prepared a new batch of protein bars. "I heard some of the professors talking about investigating unusual student activity." Jake nodded, but he couldn't stop now. Too many students were depending on them for real nutrition. The replicator food was getting worse every day, and their bars were the only thing keeping half the academy healthy. He just hoped they could figure out a solution before the authorities shut them down. Chancellor Vormek stood in his office looking out at the academy grounds. He was a tall being with gray skin and forearms, and he had run the academy for over 50 years. Nothing happened in his school without him knowing about it, which was why the current situation bothered him so much. "Explain to me again how student performance has improved by 23% in just 2 weeks, he said to Dr. Zenth-Ka, who sat across from his desk. Dr. Zenth-Ka was a reptilian being from the Vega system. Her scales were dark green and her yellow eyes missed nothing in her chemistry classes. "The improvement is focused on specific students," she said. "They show increased energy, better focus, and faster problem-solving abilities. But when I ask them about changes in their routine, they claim nothing is different." "And you believe they are lying?" "I believe they are protecting something, or someone." Chancellor Vormek activated a holographic display that showed student performance data. Red dots marked the students whose grades had improved dramatically. "Have you noticed any pattern among these students?" Dr. Zenth-Ka studied the display. "Most of them live in the same dormitory tower, and several students have reported seeing them carrying small wrapped packages. Food packages? That would be my assumption, but I cannot prove it. The students are very careful about when and where they consume whatever they are hiding." The Chancellor's 4 hands drummed on his desk. In all his years running the academy, he had never seen anything like this. The replicator systems were functioning perfectly according to all diagnostic tests, yet somehow students were finding better nutrition elsewhere. "What does WISP-9 say about this?" he asked. WISP-9 was the Academy's head nutritionist, a being made of organized gas, clouds who floated rather than walked. They appeared in the office as if summoned, their misty form shimmering in the artificial light. "The situation defies logical analysis," WISP-9 said in their whistling voice. "Our replication systems provide perfect nutritional balance for all known species. Yet these students are achieving superior health metrics through unknown means. Could they be taking supplements from their home worlds? Impossible. All incoming supplies are scanned and cataloged. No significant nutritional materials have entered the academy in the past month." Chancellor Vormek was quiet for a moment. Then he pressed a button on his desk. Captain Raxvor, please report to my office. Captain Raxvor arrived within minutes. He was a large, muscular being from a high-gravity world, with thick gray skin and small black eyes. His job was to maintain order and security at the academy, and he took that job very seriously. I want you to investigate unauthorized food distribution among the students, the Chancellor told him. Use whatever methods necessary, but find out what is happening. Meanwhile, Jake and Lisa were having problems of their own. Their operation had grown too big to hide easily. They were now making 50 protein bars every night to meet demand, and they needed help. Veltor had become their unofficial business manager, keeping track of orders and payments. Krektos helped with ingredient collection, using his natural ability to climb walls to reach high places in the academy gardens. Namale used her tentacles to mix large batches of ingredients quickly. Zixara continued to serve as their lookout, changing his skin color to blend with walls and watch for security patrols. We need a better location, Lisa said as they worked in Jake's cramped room. And we need more storage space for ingredients. I know a place, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see Dr. Zenth Ka standing there, her yellow eyes reflecting the room's lights. Jake's heart stopped. They had been caught by a professor. Their operation was over, and he would probably be expelled from the academy. But Dr. Zenth Ka didn't sound angry. She sounded curious. May I try one of your protein bars? She asked politely. Jake looked at Lisa, who shrugged. They were already in trouble, so it couldn't get much worse. Jake handed the professor one of their bars. Dr. Zenth Ka examined it, carefully, sniffing it with her small nostrils. Then she took a bite. Her eyes widened immediately, and her scales brightened to a healthier shade of green. Remarkable, she said. The bioavailability of these compounds is extraordinary. How did you achieve such efficient nutrient absorption? It's just real food, Jake said. We use local beetles and plants instead of replicated materials. Just real food, Dr. Zenth Ka repeated thoughtfully. You know, my species stopped preparing natural food 300 years ago when replication technology was developed. We considered it primitive and inefficient. Maybe primitive isn't always bad, Lisa suggested. Dr. Zenth Ka spent the next hour learning about their ingredient sources and preparation methods. She was particularly interested in Jake's fermentation techniques, which his grandmother had taught him using earth microorganisms that somehow worked with alien ingredients too. I can help you, she finally said. I have access to laboratory space where you can work safely, and I can teach you about the biochemistry of what you're doing so you can make even better nutrition bars. Why would you help us? Jake asked. Because, in 40 years of teaching, I have never seen students perform as well as the ones eating your food. You are revolutionizing nutritional science, and you don't even realize it. Dr. Zenth Ka was true to her word. She led them to an unused laboratory in the basement of the science building. It had all the equipment they needed to expand their operations safely and efficiently, but their success also brought more attention. Captain Raxvor's security teams were conducting random room searches, looking for evidence of unauthorized food distribution. Students were getting nervous about carrying the protein bars openly. We need to be smarter about this, Lisa said during one of their late-night production sessions. Security is getting closer, and if they shut us down, half the academy will go back to feeling tired and weak. Jake agreed, but he wasn't sure what they could do. Their operation was too big to hide completely, but too important to shut down. That's when Krektos had an idea. What if we don't hide? He suggested. What if we make this official? Official how? Jake asked. Academic research. Dr. Zenth Ka could sponsor us as a student research project. Captain Raxvor can't shut down legitimate scientific study. Dr. Zenth Ka smiled, showing her sharp teeth. That might actually work. I could register this as a cross-species nutrition research project. Jake and Lisa would be my research assistants, and the other students would be voluntary test subjects. It was a risky plan, but it might be their only chance to continue helping their fellow students while staying within academy rules. The question was whether they could implement it before Captain Rexfor's investigation caught up with them. 6 months later, Jake stood in the biggest laboratory he had ever seen. The new Department of Biological Nutrition Sciences occupied an entire floor of the Academy's main building, with growing chambers for plants from hundreds of different worlds and breeding areas for various nutritious insects and small creatures. Lisa worked at a station nearby, teaching a group of alien students how to prepare fermented foods using microorganisms from their home worlds. Her student assistants included beings from 12 different species, all eager to learn traditional food preparation methods their own civilizations had forgotten. "Jake, come see this," called Dr. HFY from across the lab. She was working with WISP-9, the former head nutritionist who had become their most enthusiastic supporter once he understood the science behind Jake's methods. Jake walked over to their station, where a holographic display showed nutritional data from across the Academy. The numbers were impressive. Student health had improved dramatically since they had started integrating biological nutrition with replication technology. "Look at these absorption rates," WISP-9 said, his gas form shimmering with excitement. "The hybrid bars we developed last month are achieving 97% bioavailability across all tested species." The hybrid bars were Jake's latest creation, combining his grandmother's techniques with advanced Academy science. They used locally grown ingredients that were optimized for different alien metabolisms, but prepared using traditional fermentation and combination methods that created complex nutrients no replicator could produce. "Even more interesting," Dr. HFY added, "is the data from other Academy campuses. Word has spread about our work here, and institutions across the galaxy are requesting consultation on biological nutrition programs." Jake smiled. It had been a busy 6 months, but seeing the results made all the hard work worthwhile. The Academy's gardens had been expanded to include edible plants from over 300 worlds. Students from every species were learning to grow and prepare their own food alongside their regular studies. The changes went beyond just nutrition. Students who learned to grow and prepare their own food formed stronger connections with classmates from other species. Working together in the gardens and kitchens broke down barriers that had existed for generations. Veltor approached their workstation, his rocky body glowing with the healthy golden light that had become his normal state. "Jake, the new Earth students have arrived. Chancellor Vormek requested that you meet with them." Jake nodded and made his way to the Academy's main entrance. A transport ship was landing on the main platform, and he could see human figures through the windows. These would be the 5th and 6th humans ever accepted to the Academy, and Jake felt a responsibility to help them adjust. The new students were twins named Alex and Sam Chen from the Mars colonies. They were both 17 years old and looked nervous as they stepped off the transport ship. Jake remembered exactly how they felt. "Welcome to the Academy," Jake said, walking up to them. "I'm Jake Morrison. I'm here to help you get settled." Alex, who seemed to be the more talkative of the twins, looked around at the alien students and massive Academy buildings. "Is it true what we heard about you? That you revolutionized nutrition across the galaxy using bug bars?" Jake laughed. "Something like that. Do you happen to have any food from home with you?" Sam held up a small bag. "Our mother packed us some trail mix and energy bars. She said they would remind us of Earth." "Perfect. Those might be more important than you realize." Jake spent the afternoon showing the new students around the Academy, introducing them to students from different species and explaining how the biological nutrition program worked. He brought them to the gardens where Krektos was teaching a class on insect farming to students from gas giant worlds. "The key thing to understand," Jake explained as they watched students learning to harvest nutritious beetles, "is that every species has traditional foods that work better than anything machines can make. The trick is combining old knowledge with new science." That evening, Jake received a message that Chancellor Vormek wanted to see him in his office. Jake was no longer nervous about being called to see the Chancellor, but he was curious about what the meeting might be about. Chancellor Vormek's office had changed since Jake's last visit. The walls now displayed growing charts showing the expansion of biological nutrition programs to Academy campuses across the galaxy. A corner of the office had been converted to a small garden where the Chancellor grew herbs from his home world. "Jake Morrison," the Chancellor said as Jake entered. I have news that will interest you. Jake took a seat across from the Chancellor's desk, noting that the older alien looked healthier than he had 6 months ago. Even the Academy administration had started eating Jake's hybrid nutrition bars. The Galactic Education Council has voted to implement biological nutrition programs at all major educational institutions, Chancellor Vormek announced. They want you to lead the implementation effort. Jake was stunned. All of them? That's thousands of schools across hundreds of worlds. Indeed. Your simple discovery has become the foundation for the largest educational reform in galactic history. The Chancellor activated a holographic display showing star maps with hundreds of marked locations. Each of these institutions has requested consultation on establishing biological nutrition programs. I don't know if I'm ready for something that big, Jake admitted. You will not be doing it alone. Dr. Zenthka will lead the scientific development team. Lisa Park will head the practical implementation division. Students like Veltor, Krektos, and Namale will serve as species-specific consultants. The Chancellor smiled with his version of warmth. You sparked a revolution, Jake Morrison. Now we will help you guide it. Jake thought about his grandmother, back on Earth, growing crickets in her backyard and making simple protein bars with ingredients most people considered worthless. She had given him more than just food for his journey. She had given him the knowledge that would transform education across the galaxy. There is one more thing, Chancellor Vormek said. The Academy Council has voted to award you the Star of Scientific Achievement, the highest honor we can bestow on a student. The ceremony will be held next week. Jake felt overwhelmed by the recognition. Thank you, sir, but I want to make sure the other students get credit too. Veltor, Lisa, Krektos, all of them made this possible. They will be recognized as well. But this revolution began with you sharing your grandmother's protein bars with a homesick roommate. Never underestimate the power of simple generosity. The ceremony was held in the Academy's Great Hall, with students and faculty from dozens of species in attendance. Jake stood on the platform wearing formal robes, feeling strange but proud as Chancellor Vormek placed the Star of Scientific Achievement around his neck. This award recognizes not just scientific discovery, the Chancellor announced to the gathered crowd, but the wisdom to question established methods and the courage to propose better solutions. As Jake looked out at the audience, he saw Veltor glowing brightly in the front row, Lisa grinning with pride, and dozens of healthy, energetic students who had been transformed by simple food made from bugs and leaves. The Academy's old motto, "Technology transcends biology," had been changed to "Wisdom honors both innovation and tradition." Jake thought his grandmother would approve. After the ceremony, Jake found a quiet spot in the Academy gardens where he could sit and think. The three suns were setting in their different colored patterns, painting the sky in familiar shades of purple and gold. Tomorrow he would begin the work of spreading biological nutrition across the galaxy. It would be challenging, but he wouldn't be doing it alone. He had friends from dozens of worlds, teachers who believed in his methods, and the support of the most prestigious educational institution in known space. Most importantly, he had learned that sometimes the most advanced civilizations needed to be reminded of the simplest truths. Real food gives real energy. Traditional knowledge has lasting value, and sharing what you have with others can change the galaxy. Jake pulled out one of the new hybrid protein bars from his pocket and took a bite, tasting the complex flavors that combined ingredients from Earth, Zerion Prime, and half a dozen other worlds. It was good food made with care and science working together. His grandmother would definitely approve. Jake woke up to loud knocking on his door. It was early morning, and the three suns of Zerion Prime were just beginning to light up the sky outside his window. Veltor was already awake, his golden eyes dim with worry. "Jake Morrison," called a deep voice from outside. "This is Captain Raxvor. Open the door immediately." Jake's stomach dropped. He looked at the box under his bed where he kept the protein bars. There were 20 bars there, enough evidence to get him expelled from the Academy, but there was nowhere to hide them now. He opened the door. Captain Raxvor stood there with two other security officers. Behind them was Chancellor Vormek himself, his forearms crossed over his chest and his face showing no emotion. You will. Come with us, Captain Raxvor said. Bring nothing. They escorted Jake through the hallways of the academy. Students stared as they passed, whispering to each other. Jake saw Krektos near the cafeteria, his compound eyes wide with alarm. Namale was floating near a window, her tentacles curled with anxiety. They brought him to the academy's main council chamber, a huge room with seats arranged in a circle. 12 professors sat in the high seats representing different species from across the galaxy. Chancellor Vormek took his place at the center, with Captain Raxvor standing beside him. Lisa was already there, sitting in a chair in the middle of the circle. She looked scared but determined. Dr. Zenthka sat in one of the professor seats, her yellow eyes focused on Jake, with what he hoped was encouragement. Jake Morrison, Chancellor Vormek began, his voice echoing in the large chamber. You are charged with distribution of unregulated biological matter, undermining institutional nutrition protocols, and conducting unauthorized biochemical experiments. Jake felt his throat go dry. Those charges sounded serious enough to get him banned from every academic institution in the galaxy. How do you answer these charges? The Chancellor asked. Jake stood up straighter. I admit that I shared food with other students, but I don't think I did anything wrong. A murmur went around the room. Professor Quintel, a floating jellyfish-like being, pulsed with indignant colors. You distributed unknown organic compounds to students from dozens of different species. You could have poisoned them. But I didn't, Jake said. Everyone who ate my protein bars felt better, not worse. That is not the point, said Professor Havnek, whose species looked like walking trees. Academy nutrition protocols exist for the safety of all students. You violated those protocols. Chancellor Vormek held up one of his hands for silence. Before we continue, I want to hear testimony from the students who consume these unauthorized substances. The chamber doors opened and Jake was amazed to see dozens of students filing in. Veltor entered first, his rocky body glowing brighter than Jake had ever seen it. Krektos followed, his green armor plates shining with health. Namale floated in with her tentacles moving gracefully. Zixara's skin displayed confident blue and gold colors. But they weren't alone. Behind them came students. Jake had never met beings from species he couldn't even identify. There had to be over 100 students crowding into the chamber. We are here to speak for Jake Morrison, Veltor announced, his voice ringing through the room. Chancellor Vormek looked surprised. You were not called to testify. We call ourselves, said Krektos. Jake Morrison saved our health and our academic careers. The Academy food replicators have been failing for months, but the administration refused to acknowledge the problem. Professor Quintel pulsed with angry red colors. The replicators function within acceptable parameters. Acceptable to who? Asked Namale, her voice sharp with frustration. I had been feeling weak and tired for months before I tried Jake's protein bars. Now I have more energy than I've had in years. One by one, students began sharing their stories. A crystalline being from the Tau Ceti system explained how Jake's bars had cured his chronic fatigue. A gas cloud student described how the bars had improved her ability to maintain molecular cohesion. Even students from high-gravity worlds talked about increased strength and endurance. Dr. Zenthka stood up in her seat. Chancellor Vormek, if I may present some data. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber showing test scores, health metrics, and performance data. The evidence was overwhelming. Students who had been eating Jake's protein bars showed improvement in every measurable category. The average improvement in academic performance is 23%, Dr. Zenthka announced. Physical health metrics have improved by an average of 31%. Some students have achieved their best performance in years. Professor Havnek rustled his leafy branches with irritation. Even if this is true, it does not excuse violation of Academy protocols. What if the protocols are wrong? Jake asked loudly. The chamber fell silent. What if depending completely on machines has made everyone forget what real nutrition feels like? Chancellor Vormek leaned forward. Explain what you mean. Jake took a deep breath. My grandmother always said that real food gives real energy. She makes protein bars from crickets and dandelion leaves that most people think are just bugs and weeds. But those simple ingredients provide better nutrition than anything a machine can create. He gestured to the students around him. Look at them. These students are healthier and smarter than they've been in months, all because they ate food made from local beetles and plants that the Academy considers worthless. The replication systems are scientifically designed to provide optimal nutrition, said Wisp9, the head nutritionist, their gas form shimmering with confusion. Optimal for what? Lisa asked, standing up beside Jake. For keeping students alive? Or for keeping them healthy and strong? Dr. Zenth-Ka activated another holographic display. I have been studying Jake and Lisa's methods for several weeks. Their simple preparation techniques create bioactive compounds that our replicators cannot produce. The fermentation processes they use generate nutrients that are completely absent from replicated food. The chamber erupted in discussion as professors argued among themselves. Some demanded that Jake be expelled immediately. Others wanted to study his methods further. The student gallery cheered whenever someone supported Jake, and groaned when professors spoke against him. Chancellor Vormek raised all four hands for silence. When the chamber was quiet, he spoke. Jake Morrison, your actions violated Academy protocols. However, the evidence suggests that those protocols may be inadequate. He paused, looking around the room at all the healthy, energetic students. Rather than punish you for discovering our failures, I believe we should learn from your success. Jake felt his knees go weak with relief. Therefore, the Chancellor continued, the Academy will establish a new department of biological nutrition sciences. You will serve as a student researcher, working with Dr. Zenth-Ka to develop nutrition protocols that combine the efficiency of replication technology with the benefits of traditional food preparation. The student gallery erupted in cheers. Veltor's glow became so bright it lit up half the chamber. Krektos clicked his mandibles with joy. Even some of the professors seemed pleased with the decision, but not all of them. Professor Quintel pulsed, with dark, angry colors. This sets a dangerous precedent. Students will think they can ignore any rule they disagree with. Chancellor Vormek's expression became stern. This sets a precedent that the Academy values student health and scientific discovery over rigid adherence to outdated protocols. As the formal hearing ended and students began filing out of the chamber, Jake felt overwhelmed. He had expected to be expelled, but instead he had been given an official position to continue his work. Dr. Zenth-Ka approached him with what he was learning to recognize as her version of a smile. Ready to revolutionize galactic nutrition, Mr. Morrison?